and I'm here to give you my top albums so far of 2025. Now, this year has kind of been a bit mediocre and underwhelming due to the standpoint, maybe because of my ignorance, because I haven't really listened to too many albums this year. Been mainly kind of focused on movies and TV shows, more or less on my spare time. But here, I'm going to talk about the albums that I have listened to for 2025 and the rare, underrated hidden gems that I found so far this year, and some that are mainly more mainstream into the alternative R&B and like the Billboard Hot 100. A few of them will be on here. But before I get to my top albums of 2025, I'm going to give you some honorable mentions. Now, some I have talked briefly on the channel at the beginning part of the year, and some I've talked to around March and early April, and then some I've just recently gotten back in and talked to in like later half of June. So here we go. So honorable mention goes to Sabrina Claudio's album, Fall in Love with Her. Now, this album to me focuses a lot on more or less, exposure about her past life, trials, tribulations, more or less exposing more of like body positivity, more positivity in her life, body positivity, more exposing about her personal life and just everything that goes on with it, and just it has a feel good alternative R&B but slash more hybrid, more pop route. It was a really big sensation for me, and actually to me is one of her best projects that she's done. Even more better than Archives and Lullabies, which is more or less like an EP, or more or less like a early version of a mixtape project, and just Archives of other great. It felt like a greatest hits compilation record to me than just an album. Here, this feels like an album she really wanted to make, and she really was focusing, and she really gave it all her effort. I talked about songs on there, but my favorite is probably the title track, Fall in Love with Her. I think that was really, really solid, really, really strong. Next on the list to me is John Mitchell and the producer Anthony James, and this project really surprised the hell out of me. It's called Ego Trip, and this project to me, I hadn't heard anything about John Mitchell, the MC, and I haven't heard anything about Anthony James' Ego Trip. And again, it's probably gonna be a couple albums I'm mentioning on the hip hop side, because I'll do a top 10 hip hop albums probably by the end of the year. But but this album to me really, really shaped and focused and molded to me of like what gospel rap actually feels like, and what really it puts it together in all truest forms and perspectives, especially on songs such as Don't Save Me, and especially songs like Rising Power, which is again another powerful gem, another powerful record, man, that really just showcases a lot of the flows of John Mitchell, and also the musical soundscapes and production that Anthony James was going to in a realm. And I really, really enjoy and really, really dig. And also, I really like the title track, Ego Trip. This album really focuses on just owning up to your past mistakes, owning up to grievances and past mistakes, doing a lot of, mundane and humane things, and owning up and trying to find a sense of God in the music, man. And I really like this incredible jazz rap, elements and feel of it, and at the same time gospel feel of it as well. Another gospel project that I'll talk about in my list that has a similar feeling and a vibrant of it, well, I'll talk about it in my list. But man, really, what a good album, and what a really epic surprise to me of the year, man, that just really, really blew me away. And I'm glad that I heard of this guy John Mitchell. I'm gonna check out more of his projects, and probably gonna do more of a deep dive session of it. Let me get to McKinley Dixon's album Magic / Alive. Now, this another incredibly gifted, talented jazz rap album feel that just really encompasses more or less McKinley talking about issues in his family. He's talking about feeling alive, thriving, trying to thrive into the music industry. Trying to be alive and more thrive in the music industry. try to find more ways and be more open and transparent, man. Really, really dope project. Next is Turntile with Never Enough. And also, I kind of really focusing on more of heavy topic, heavy eccentric theme, religious-based feeling albums. We're gonna continue on that trend with Julian Baker with Send a Prayer My Way. Now let's get to the top. Let's get to the top. Well, usually be a top 10, but I got 12 albums I'm gonna mention that I really, really enjoy. We're gonna start off with Bon Iver's album Sable Fable. Now, this project in particularly really encapsulates more along the lines of what they've done for their entire career, and to me, I really enjoyed Bon Iver, what they've done over the years and for a long period of time in their career. Let me see. And what I really enjoyed about this project, 6 years ago after they last worked, let me see what the title of that out. Yeah, 6 years after they last worked, which is entitled I, which came out in 2019. They really come back with a compass feel. This is more or less consensual. This is more or less a feeling of contemporary R&B, soft rock, and more hybrid and more chamber rock as well. I really feel, chamber music, and I really like the way that they carried through that. And I feel like the title of the other title, Sable, carried more or less as a feeling, as a poem, as a mechanism of just encompassing of just them as hidden gems. And my favorite songs on here, I would say, is Day One, Everything Is Peaceful, There's a Rhythm, and If Only I Could Wait. So yeah, check out this album from Bon Iver, as they just been on fire, majority of their career. They it's a really, really solid project. Really encompasses of a lot of different genres, and I really just like the music videos too, and I really like the rollout process of it. But yeah, check out Everything Is Peaceful and If Only I Could Wait, and There's a Rhythm. Those 3 songs probably are my favorites on the album. Let's talk about an album that really has gotten a lot of buzz, and especially for myself. And Lady Gaga comes back with probably, in my opinion, one of her best works since probably her best work since Art Pop, and I'm talking about Mayhem. This is the return to form for Lady Gaga, because Chromatica was getting back to her pop aesthetic roots, but I feel like this was more or less getting back to that edgy feeling of what she did before in the past, especially on songs like Love Drug, Perfect Celebrity, and of course Abracadabra and Disease. Especially if you watch the music videos, they feel more emphatic, they feel more cinematic, feel like a cinematic feel of a movie. And they really, really encompass just how much she really just puts the passion thriving of it. Viagra Boys with their album. Viagra Boys, but what they did with this album, I mean, my goodness. Oh, man. Yeah, Viagra Boys, what they did with this album, my goodness. Alright, Yeah, what they did with this album, my goodness. Viagra Boys, what they did with this 4th studio album, and it's just a short period of time. They focus a lot. They just focus a lot. They approached a lot to the songwriting on this album. They mainly incorporated everything, hopes of expecting what would be coming. They more or less described this record as a juxtaposing of real life with high art, and it's also, and I've much listening to this album, it's more politically driven, more politically charged than any other previous work, especially Cave World, which is more heavy indie rock and indie folk influence, man. That's what it felt like from there. Here, it just felt more or less they try to be politically charged, politically savvy, especially on songs like Pyramid of Health, Medicine for Horses, Waterboy, Store Policy, and the last track, River King. You really feel the savviness, the edginess. Shout out to Sebastian Murphy, who was the main writer and composer, and Pete Gunnerfeld. So yeah, Sebastian Murphy and Peter Gunnerfeld really did their thing with the writing. They really did their thing with just having to encapsulate the essence of just the feeling of it, man. And it just really captured a whole lot of moments for me. Now, I want to talk about a particular artist that I was not a huge fan of at all. You know, just I wasn't the hugest fan of, you know, of her last of her early part of her career, but she really has changed to me the essence and the goal of just of an artist, and really just knows how to just really mastering the craft as of recently. And I'm gonna talk about Miley Cyrus's album, Something Beautiful. Now, this feels like she really took a lot of vocal lessons from a vocal coach, you know, because she really put a lot of effort into her voice, especially on songs like especially on songs such as Walk of Fame. Oh, let me get the album pulled up. Yeah, this is definitely like I was saying, you can definitely tell that she really took a lot of vocal lessons from her vocal coach. You know, she really kind of encapsulated a lot about just the darkness and the beauty and all the beauty, and also in the darkest moments in her life. And she really put it all to her all of the way. And it's a lot of going through traumatization, going through, you know, changing in her appearances and her attire. She really kind of went through a lot in a lot of different phases in her career. So she also expresses in a lot of her interviews where she goes through loss and a lot of self-discovery. But just, man, just looking at the look at the songs. I mean, just looking at the song, and when I was listening to it, for More to Lose, you can just hear it from even the interludes. Really just hear it. You can hear it from the interludes, Easy Lover and Walk of Fame. You can hear the growth, the maturity, and also the vocal lessons that I was just saying earlier. You can hear that enhanced and influence and encompassing throughout this album. That really just showcases her pen, her strong writing, her strong pen. I never really realized how good of a writer, recently she has been, but even from listening to Plastic Hearts, I knew she was going to go down the road and down a direction. She was working with people like the Eagles, the National, and Stevie Nicks. But I didn't think she was going to go down in this direction where she she even worked with Florence from Florence and the Machine on her last record, I believe. And man, I mean, you can just tell from whoever her vocal coach was, you can tell she don't sound the same from her last couple of records. She sound like she really is trained. She really sounded like she was going through a lot of loss and discovery, man. So shout out to Miley Cyrus. She did her thing on this album. Next album on the list, I will say, and I will run through this real quickly. And we're going to talk about probably one of the best albums in recent memory, and we're talking about FKA Twigs. Oh, man. And we're going to talk about FKA Twigs' latest record, Asexual. Now, I did a review on this earlier in the year, And yeah, this is her third studio album, encompassing and making it her first studio album in 5 years, but her third studio album in general, because her mixtape Capri Songs really took over and really did her thing. Now this was just electro pop, more mainstream, but at the same time electro pop, and a lot more just hybrid, and a lot more dance. It's dancing, especially in her videos. She's very her artistic side, her creativity, and especially on songs like Room of Fools, Childlike Things, Drums of Death, and Perfect Stranger, just really shows, you know, FKA just going into a whole different phase, a whole different direction. Capri Songs felt like just more of just her trying to tackle emotions and more emotional range and depth, and tries a little bit more on the vocals. Here, she just goes all out. She just goes all in, and she just really just focuses more on just her pen game, and just focuses more on just delivering and encapsulating a artistic, more self-awareness and self-absorbed and self-feeling and more healing component of a body of work in this album. And she really does her thing on it, and I really appreciate, just the direction that she went in and how she tackled just the topics. I want to talk about another project, several projects after this, and we're gonna go through these real fast. Getting back to that. So those albums, arranged in particular, just going back down the songs. So getting back to the albums real quickly. So the next three I'm gonna read, I'm gonna run through them real quickly. But Duran Bernard with his gospel R&B album called Bloom, really enjoyed this record, man. The best song on the album to me, and probably my favorite record of the year so far, is probably Generous. That record is just it's a gospel centric and very essential and very eccentric, man. And definitely just from just the moment of the album, listening to it alone, definitely one of the best current R&B gospel artists that we got right now, man. And he definitely just put it all into it, man. Very talking about more of his spirituality, his beliefs, trying to find peace in his own world, in his own mind, dealing with loss in his life, his family, dealing with his woman, dealing with his kids, dealing with everything that just went on in his life, man. Duran Jones and the Indications with their album Flowers is another one. Then I want to talk about another really good project that's number 4, and that's Kali Uchis with Sincerely. Kenyon Dixon and Terrence Martin, Come As You Are. The Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow. And then my favorite record of the year is Black Country New Road, Forever Howling. So yeah, those are my favorite albums of 2025 so far. It's a little bit kind of all over the place, a little bit erratic, but I just wanted to go through a few songs and talk about my favorites and why. But again, that's all my favorite albums so far this year. Again, it's kind of been a bit like a rocky road, a rocky placement so far. Hopefully towards the end of the year, we get really some solid albums from a lot of the artists that we anticipate dropping this year. I heard A$AP Rocky may come out with Don't Be Dumb. Drake's working on his new project called Iceman. Then I heard Rihanna may come out with some new music. But who knows what could be the case coming out this year. But those are just the top albums that I like, that I've enjoyed so far this year. Again, I will do another one by the end of the year, a top 10 list. And I will do a top 10 hip-hop albums of that year, of the year 2025 so far. So yeah, not a bad year. It was an okay year. Started off really slow, but I feel like towards the latter half and maybe towards the end of the year, we'll start to pick up with some projects. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. Those are just my picks for the best albums so far this year. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section. For those of you who have been watching, like, sharing, subscribing, thank you. I appreciate that. And I will be heading out of here. Peace.